Good morning, Canada. My name is Question Period. Today is June 3rd, 2025, and yeah, there's a lot going on, man. Things are definitely picking up. They are not slowing down. You have every single premier and the prime minister trying to work together on creating a deal. Pathways, gateway pathways, gateway. I don't know what the heck it's called, but there's a lot of stuff to take a look at, and people are getting along. Kind of, sort of. Not really. I mean, the referendum process is for sure still going on in Alberta. It might also happen in Saskatchewan, but in terms of press conferences, people are sort of kind of getting along, and it's nice to see. And that's also acknowledged by other by a lot of premiers. But does anything actually get done? That's kind of the key takeaway. There's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of press conferences, but has anything gotten done yet? And the answer is no. The answer is no. Nothing has gotten done yet. Will something get done? Probably not. We saw this go on for 10 years with Justin Trudeau. There was a lot of talk. There was a lot of hype. There was a lot of momentum on a lot of things. But ultimately, nothing got done. So we're going to have to just wait and see how this plays out. Maybe something gets done. Maybe something doesn't get done. But so far, it's been a lot of talk. So we got a couple news stories lined up for you here before we get into question period. We're going to start off with what is going on with wildfires. We're going to take a look at some of the meetings, the outcomes of premiers meeting with Prime Minister Carney. What else do we have here? Oh, yeah. Canada introduces bill to tighten immigration. That's kind of neat. Very cool. And then also a one-on-one with Vashi and Freeland if we have time before question period starts. So let's get right into it. But before we do, ladies and gentlemen, you probably know where this is going. I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It does really help with the growth of the live streams and of the channel. And without further ado, let's get into what's going on with the wildfires, because they for surezies are getting out of control.
Returning to our top story, the wildfire emergencies in Western Canada. Smoke from the fires is traveling far and wide, covering huge swaths of the country and stretching down into the southern United States. That's creating a whole lot of haze. And as Alison Northcott explains, it's bringing a host of health hazards with it.
This was how thick the smoke was on the Opaskwayak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba Sunday.
The smoke was so bad, you know, you could barely see 200 yards, and, you know, most of the people that were working outside were coughing, and they were complaining about, you know, feeling short of breath.
The community's leadership helped people at risk, seniors and those with health problems like asthma, leave the community to escape the smoke.
We had them go to Winnipeg, you know, where it's a little bit, you know, less smoky, we hope, but we hear it's down there too.
There have been air quality alerts across several parts of the country, with wildfire smoke also spilling into the U.S.
It's sure smoky in Minnesota today.
Those aren't clouds, that's Canadian smoke.
Breathing smoky air is more than just uncomfortable. It can be risky.
The particles that you breathe in, they get into your lungs, they get into your bloodstream, and they cause both risks to your heart health, but also your respiratory health.
That's particularly true for people who have underlying health conditions, and the risk can be compounded over time.
As these wildfires are happening more frequently, they're happening longer, we're actually seeing risks like certain types of cancer, so brain cancer, longer-term cardiovascular impacts that are coming from repeated exposures to wildfires.
But there are things you can do to lower your exposure.
Head inside, keep your windows and doors closed as much as possible, and then you need to filter those fine particles from the smoke.
And if you do go out on a smoky day, experts suggest wearing an N95 mask.
Health Canada says people should also keep an eye on the Air Quality Health Index online to know when the air quality is a health risk. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Yeah, I muted my mic during that. I had a good zinger. Unfortunately, my mic was muted like an idiot. But what I did say was, what are we going to need to do next? What are we going to need to do next? Get a jibby jab? Get a jibby jab over it? Is that going to help with the smoke? And then they said the N95 mask, and I almost peed myself laughing. That was pretty funny. I mean, for sure, yeah, you got to protect yourself with smoke. Like, it's really bad for you. It's not like, hey, I'm going to have a fun day today, and I'm just going to engulf myself in some smoke, and I'm going to be really healthy doing it. No, of course, it's like super bad for you. But they didn't mention the carbon tax. You know, like, should we be paying more in carbon tax to help combat the wildfire smoke? According to the Liberals, that's a yes. According to the Liberals, that's a yes. Oh, my goodness. I hate the price of gas. I hate the price of gas right now. Oh, it's horrible. Anyways, let's take a look now at what's going on with trade deals. You've got Carney and Mo. They found common ground on trade, apparently.
The first ministers' meeting comes as Saskatchewan is in a state of emergency as firefighters struggle to contain the wildfires burning in the north. CTV's Laura Woodward has been covering the meeting and joins us now from downtown Saskatoon. Laura, the wildfires were mentioned during today's talks.
Yeah, that's right. The Prime Minister and Premier Scott Moe both acknowledged the wildfires burning and the state of emergency. But the focus of today's meeting was boosting Canada's economy. And on that front, Moe and the new Liberal leader seemed to see eye to eye.
Premier, good to see you. Good to see you as well.
Premier Scott Moe arriving for a meeting with the Prime Minister and Premiers of Canada. It's the first time in 40 years the meeting has been held in Saskatchewan.
I want to thank Prime Minister Carney for providing us this offer, not only of a First Ministers meeting, but for providing the offer for us to host it here in Saskatoon.
Premier Scott Moe opened the meeting thanking other provinces and territories for sending resources to help fight.
Why is that taking so long to go back to Saskatchewan? Like, shouldn't they just do this once a year? All the premiers and the PM get together once a year in a different province. Just start from left to right. So go, you know, I'm not going to list them because I'm probably going to mess it up. But you know what I'm saying? Like, why did it take 40 years for them to land back in Saskatchewan? That's kind of a broken system, in my opinion.
Wildfires in northern Saskatchewan and Manitoba, saying it's proof Canada is stronger when we stand together.
I'd like to just follow you all the time in making remarks because I just want to reinforce everything the Premier just said. It's absolutely correct. And I might
have to form a new party.
I would, yes, that's true. Maybe not every single time.
Laughing about their differences, standing united on strengthening the Canadian economy and breaking down interprovincial trade barriers to combat U.S. tariffs.
And that's what this meeting is about, building a stronger Canadian economy.
Becoming the strongest economy in the G7.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford says a dinner in Saskatoon Sunday night shows the need to remove red tape from provincial borders.
We went out for dinner last night at a great distillery, and the biggest complaint from the owner is I can't ship this out to BC or Ontario.
And the Prime Minister promised new legislation is coming, focused on eliminating trade barriers within Canada and fast-tracking infrastructure projects deemed nationally significant.
Yeah. But here's the skepticism that we're all going to have. It's that we were told for 10 years that would be happening, and it never freaking did. So color me skeptical, but I just don't believe it till I see it. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to believe it till I actually see it. Hey, if it happens objectively, I will make a video and say, this is happening and it's good. Good job, guy. Really good job. But until then, no, it's just not. You're not going to get that good job from me. You're not going to get that praise. Anyways, I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments about these trade deals, specifically the intra-provincial trade barriers. They seem to be hyper-focusing on only a couple of things, right? Like food or wines, liquors, and stuff like that. But interprovincial trade barriers is not just goods. It's also our services, like our healthcare. Our healthcare. You can't have a nurse. Right now, there's a nurse who can be qualified in British Columbia who can't easily go work in Ontario as a nurse, even if she's been doing it for 15 or 20 years because of the interprovincial trade barriers. So you need a certification for different fields in order to have that transient workflow across the country. Like, that needs to be very much addressed. Carney's not addressing it. I haven't heard him say it once. I heard Pierre campaign on it, Red Seal certification or Blue Seal certification for all these different things. You heard that over and over and over again, but not one from Carney. Kind of weird that he's not going all in on solving these things. It's almost like he just wants to check a box and say that it's been done. Look what I've done, right? Instead of actually addressing a lot of our root problems. Would you rather have workers be able to move around more, or would you rather be able to buy Okanagan wine in Ontario? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, yeah, cool. Wine in different provinces is nice, but it's not the end of the world compared to actually having our workers be able to move around from province to province. Anyways, that's my opinion. I'd love to know yours. Next up here, we're taking a look at the fact that our Liberal government, strangely enough, is, now this is blind to me. I haven't seen this. We're watching this together. Okay, we're watching it together. Our Liberal government has just tightened up the laws on immigration and strengthening our border security. Let's take a look. I guess I'm a little skeptical, but let's take a look.
This morning, I introduced Bill C-2, the Strong Borders Act. The bill updates existing laws to bolster our response to national and economic security threats while enhancing the integrity and fairness of our immigration system. Among some of the key changes are new powers for border officers to examine goods destined for export, to prevent the transport of illegal goods such as stolen vehicles. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies will also have some new tools to stop the flow of fentanyl and its precursors. Of course, there's elements that will strengthen the relationship with the United States. There are a number of elements in the bill that have been irritants for the U.S., so we are addressing some of those issues, but it's not exclusively about the United States. It's also about ensuring that our immigration system, for example, the integrity of our immigration system is strengthened. I fundamentally believe that we have strike the balance, that while expanding powers in certain instances does have the safeguards and the protections in place to protect individual freedoms and rights. There is judicial oversight, except in the case of extrinsic circumstances. So if there is an active event happening, including that involves the safety and security of someone, law enforcement can intervene at that point and seek and demand production of information. But in the absence of that, there is a judicial process by which they need to go and seek the warrants and the production orders required for them to continue the investigation. These are some of the very important safeguards that are built in.
Okay, a couple of things. One, I'm going to be very honest. I kind of blanked out while he was talking. You know, when you're having a conversation, you got the auto responses ready to go. Oh, yeah. Oh, no way. That's crazy. That's my summary of what I just heard. So I'm going to need the chat to kind of fill me in on what the hell we just heard, because I can't summarize what this 2-minute long clip just was. If you ask me, gun to my head, say it. What's the summary? That's crazy. Wow. Oh my God. Did you hear what he had to say? I don't even know. I'm sorry. Maybe my comprehension of video and audio isn't that good, but I have absolutely no idea what the bill is to tighten immigration. Did he give a number? Can I get like some response from the chat right now, from the comment section? Did he give a number? Did he say what he's doing? Or did I actually space out? Because I don't think I heard we're cutting back on immigration, or this is the target immigration, or border security. Like, I don't think I heard any numbers, any actual policy other than here's what we're doing. We're going to do it for sure. You got to trust us. And when it comes to national security, we're absolutely going to do it. And if you're wondering what it is that we're going to do, don't worry about it. It's us. We're handling it. We're going to do it. Is that like an accurate summary? Because I genuinely feel like I just completely blanked out. If there was an exam for that video clip, I would fail. I wouldn't know what to do. I'd hope it's multiple choice, but I wouldn't know what to do because I don't know what the heck we just heard. Anyways, that was what the hell did we just listen to? Oh my goodness, man. And speaking of listening to crazy people, let's take a look now at Chrystia Freeland and her sit down. I think this is Freeland and her sit down with Vashi. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
That press conference with the premiers and the prime minister is going to get underway any minute now. When it does happen, we will, of course, take it live on our watch and share it with you. In the meantime, we've got one of the ministers who was a part of the meeting all day. Chrystia Freeland oversees internal trade and transport, and she joins us live here on set in Saskatoon. Hi, Minister. It's good to see you.
It's great to be with you, Vashi, and great to be in beautiful, sunny Saskatoon, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's a beautiful day. Thank you for making the time. I want to start on internal trade, and I'm not sure what you're able to disclose prior to the press conference starting, but I think there is some confusion over how fast this stuff is going to get done, in particular the federal side of things. What can you say to answer the question of speed?
What I can say is the federal government is absolutely committed to doing everything in our power as fast as we can to build one Canadian economy, not 13. Obviously, we don't have a majority in the House of Commons, so we can't guarantee what will happen there. But what I can tell you is we are going to table legislation very quickly, and the federal government will be acting unilaterally to lift all remaining federal barriers to internal trade. And what I also want to say is this is an issue that at the table today was unanimously supported by premiers of provinces and territories. And what they said, every single one, is people in my province, they get it. They want us to have one Canadian economy, not 13. They understand this is going to add $200 billion to our economy without costing us a penny at a time when we urgently need more economic growth. So there was a very strong consensus that sort of almost magically, right now there is a national consensus that we need to do this, that after all, we're all Canadian and we should trust each other. And you know, if a dental hygienist is good enough to clean someone's
hygienist? I thought it was dental hygienist. Dental hygienist? Like a hyena? Or dental hygienist? Or was that did she misspeak? Or am I dumb? Hygienist or oh my goodness. Why am I even questioning myself? She's wrong in how she said that, right? Somebody please give me the validation to tell me that she was wrong, or maybe I'm saying it wrong. Oh my goodness.
In Edmonton, Alberta, it should be okay for her to clean someone's teeth in London, Ontario. If a sausage which is produced in New Brunswick is good enough for people in Moncton to eat, it should be good enough for people here in Saskatoon to eat. It's actually like there's a thicket of regulation. There's a lot of work we need to do to push through it. But at the end of the day, the idea is really simple. And what I love about it is it's about Canadians trusting each other and us, without spending a single penny, making ourselves $200 billion richer. That's about $5,000 per Canadian.
I do want to ask about that number and in particular what informs it, because the studies that I've read that come to the conclusion that that much can be added to the economy or that much economic activity can be generated include, for example, getting rid of barriers like supply management, which no federal party is in support of. Quebec clearly outlined on Friday they were not in support of that either. They've also pushed back on, for example, construction standards and harmonizing them. So is the impact really what your government is saying it's going to be, or is it going to be much less?
So I did a roundtable, I think it was last week, with a group of the leading economists who study this issue, people like Trevor Toome, Ryan Mnuchin, and then also some of the Bay Street Bank economists to talk about exactly this issue. And you're right. There are different estimates. Some economists, including Trevor, who did that IMF report, say it will add up to 4% to our GDP. Others, like CIBC, a little more conservative, they say it will be 1% of our GDP. For me, at the end of the day, we don't know for sure. But everyone is agreed This is going to be a good thing. It will make our economy stronger. It will make us richer at a time when Canadian businesses are struggling to export their goods to the U.S. It will make it easier for them to sell their goods and services to fellow Canadians. So I think the key point is this doesn't cost us any money. It makes us all richer. It helps Canadian businesses who are really getting beaten up by the U.S. right now and Canadian workers. It's the right thing to do, and this is the right moment.
But isn't the question of how much richer relevant to the conversation? The Prime Minister has not just said, in principle, everyone will be a bit better off. He said the economy will be transformed into the strongest in the G7.
In the G7. And this is where the Liberals are really struggling. Like, they have been really struggling, is they can't give a number. We don't know how much money Canada has actually produced from dollar retaliatory tariffs on America. The Liberals refuse to give us that information. So already we're off to a really bad start. This isn't a more transparent government. This is a worse government than Justin Trudeau. I mean, maybe that's a stretch, but we need the numbers, man. We need the numbers. How much money are we making on the tariffs? And how much money are we actually going to be making from interprovincial trade barriers being broken down for goods, not only for services, which, again, I haven't heard a Liberal even smack their lips and say for services. They are only talking about goods. Why aren't they talking about services? This is making me so unnecessarily angry.
Promise is a very specific one, and your government has said this is going to add $200 billion to the economy and kind of sold provinces and Canadians on that. And it's not necessarily the case because, for example, again, where it's not politically advantageous for everyone to get on board around supply management, nobody is, or getting rid of those barriers.
Well, I actually disagree, Vashi. Like, the economic analysis behind the idea that lifting internal trade barriers will make Canada richer is incredibly robust. It's been published by the IMF. It has been confirmed by every single economist who has studied it.
But it includes everything. Yeah. 1 in 4 is not the same amount. Like, it's a big difference.
No, of course there's a difference, but 1% of GDP is a lot, too. And so I think it is tremendously important for us to recognize this is a big deal. This will add a lot to our economy. It will do it at a time when we need it. It doesn't cost us any money to do it. And the Canadians I talk to and the premiers that I have just spent the day with, they get it. It makes intuitive sense to have one economy, not 13, for Canadians to trust each other.
Why aren't you talking about this last year then?
How we want to live our lives, how we want our economy to work. We think a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. And I think that we really recognize the basic common sense that if,
all
cheese that
points
you can sell in Manitoba is good enough for people in Manitoba, it should be good enough for people in BC. I think we recognize that a nurse who works in Saskatchewan and is qualified there should be able to work on PEI. It's just,
but it's okay for Quebec to keep protecting supply management?
Well, actually, Vashi, as you know, supply management is a national program. It's not a provincial program. So this is
concentrated in Ontario and Quebec, though. And Quebec is the one who said we're not going here.
Actually, there are dairy farms across the country, and they all benefit from supply management. That's not a provincial program. It's a national program. Free trade in Canada is something that will make us all richer. It won't cost us any money. It's about Canadians trusting each other. And we have a real-life example. Australia did this.
Shut the hell up. You've had 9-10 years to do this. And they haven't even said this once until Pierre started really talking about it. They literally hijacked all of Pierre's platform points. And look, Pierre said he's fine with it. It's not about who gets the credit for it. Nobody cares about that. We just want the country fixed. But again, they're not doing it properly. They're not talking about services. They need to be like shrieking by the shoulders, man. Like, wake up. Stop doing things for political gain and just fix the fucking country. I'm sorry for my language. I apologize. But man, this pisses me off so much. She's got a bunch of word salad nonsense. She's trying to talk her way out of this. She's not explaining anything properly. And the fact that they keep saying we're going to be the best economy in the G7. America's in the G7 last time I checked. Are they saying we're going to be better than America? Like, give me a break. Come on, who's buying this? Apparently half the country or more. It's frustrating.
About 30 years ago, and they did it using the mutual recognition approach that Canadians are using right now, and it's worked. It made the Australian economy stronger, and it knitted Australia more closely together as a country. And I'm just really excited because this is the kind of policy, it reminds me of early learning in childcare. It's the kind of policy that policy experts have thought for a long time was the right thing to do, but it is tricky. There are tons and tons of specific lobbies opposed to it. And what is very exciting to me is that right now Canadians recognize this is a critical moment for Canada. This is something that makes sense, that we can do for each other, that doesn't cost us anything, will make us all richer. And I was very inspired by the conversation around the table where first ministers unanimously said, I want to do this. The people in my province believe in it. Let's get it done. I really think that this is a breakthrough moment for Canada. Will the federal portion of...
This is so frustrating because we just spent 9-10 years doing this. And we thought, okay, maybe the Conservatives getting a massive beatdown was for a reason. Maybe this new government under Carney leadership, even with the same people like Freeland, could be a little bit different. Maybe Trudeau actually was the problem and these people aren't as messed up as we thought. Maybe they were just following Trudeau's orders. But we're finding out that these people are fucking retarded. They are insane. Again, I am sorry for my language. Please, it's Pride Month. I'm sorry. But wow, these people are nuts. She's speaking, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. You're a politician. We don't care what you're feeling. Fix life for us. We don't care if you have a good day, a bad day, if you're happy, if you're sad. That doesn't mean anything. Fix life for us. Put more money in my pocket. I want to pay less taxes. I want my property tax to go down. That's what we want as Canadian citizens. They just don't get it. They just don't get it, man. We just need all those liberal boomers to eventually fade off, RIP, and then we're going to get back to conservative voting. Man. Sorry, can I say that? Am I allowed to say that? Is that okay? This country is just so doomed. It's so doomed.
Will that legislation be introduced in this sitting?
It will be introduced very, very soon.
But does that mean in this sitting? Because the Prime Minister has explicitly said, actually, in the election, he said it'd all be done by July 1st now, and in the platform, and now he's saying it'll be introduced, the legislation, by July 1st. Will it be?
I'm not going to get ahead of the press conference, but let me just say we're going to introduce it really fast. And let me also say, I would like to pass this legislation really, really quickly. Now is a critical moment. Now is not a time when Canada can afford to dither. We all recognize the challenge that the U.S. tariffs pose to the Canadian economy. And from my perspective, that means there is no excuse for delaying doing things that will make us richer right now that don't cost any money. So I want to take this opportunity to say to all the other members of the House of Commons, I would love this legislation to pass through unanimous consent. This is something that we can all get behind. It should not be controversial. It should be a moment when we shake hands and say, Canadians, let's trust each other. Let's build one economy, not 13. Okay. Truly, it's as simple as that.
On that point, I do want to ask you about something else that I know that Premier's talked about going into that meeting, and you were there in the meeting all day, and that is what they would term barriers to exactly what you just laid out. Basically, improving the economy, doing things that don't cost a lot in order to improve the economy. And in particular, the Premiers of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario say, get rid of C-69 and get rid of the emissions cap. Both of those things the Prime Minister stood by during the campaign. And then after the campaign, I did an interview with him. He opened the door to getting rid of them. What is the position of your government? Are you going to get rid of C-69 and the emissions cap on the oil patch?
And again, I'm not going to get ahead of the Prime Minister and the Premiers at their press conference. But what I will say is another very important, very substantive part of the discussion we had with First Ministers today was now is the time to build Canada. Someone said, build, baby, build. And
it was the Prime Minister on election night. Yeah.
And he said it
Where
again
have you
today.
been for the past 10 years?
But what does that mean? Like, I asked in all seriousness.
Actually,
he's not being explicit. It's national projects, but how do we do that when we haven't been able to the whole 10 years you were in government?
With our One Canada.
There it is. How is this different now than 10 years ago?
Legislation. This is going to be transformative legislation that allows us to get major projects in Canada.
Where was that legislation in the past 10 years?
We need to get them built. You will hear more from the Prime Minister and First Ministers, but this is going to be about much swifter project approvals. It will be about the federal government and provinces and territories working together rather than having overlapping approvals processes. It will be about working closely with Indigenous people. And
they're worried that won't be the case. The president, or the national chief of the AFN, pardon me, came on our program tonight saying she has communicated to your government that right now what this sounds like is an infringement on the duty to consult them.
No, and that's why I mentioned the role of Indigenous people is very important. You know that as finance minister, one of the things that I introduced was a $5 billion Indigenous loan guarantee program. The Prime Minister has doubled that to $10 billion. A really important part of getting big projects built in Canada at the speed the moment requires. We'll be working closely with Indigenous people. It will be having Indigenous participation in the projects. But I want to pull back for a minute. And
I don't. I think that she's full of crap. Look, I hate to say this, or maybe I don't, but at some point, you're going to need to just kind of steamroll a little bit through these blockades. There's so much red tape put up by these Indigenous groups, and at some point you're just going to have to get the job done. Now, is that just to steamroll through all the Indigenous groups and ignore any treaties, any of that stuff? No, I don't think that that's the answer, but we shouldn't be held hostage and completely give up any sort of these projects because of Indigenous groups. Equality. The government can take your land. The government can take your bank accounts. The government can do all that stuff to the white man. I'm not suggesting that the government do that to Indigenous peoples, but at some point, the government's got to get shit done. And I'm tired of pipelines being held hostage and these massive infrastructure projects being held hostage by small little communities with like 5,000 people. I'm sorry, just get the shit done, man. Anyways, we're going to segue out of that. We're going to take a look now at question period. But before we do, folks, I do want to encourage y'all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. This is going to be good. This is going to be real good. Here we go.
Faster than inflation and population combined. Seniors, moms, small businesses all have to budget before they spend. Why can't this Prime Minister do the same? This is record-breaking waste. Consultant spending has ballooned to $26 billion. That's a 36% increase in 1 year. $1,400 in taxes per household just for consultants. Worst of all, hours after he stood up in the House and promised to cap spending growth at 2%, the Liberals introduced a bill that grows it by 8%. Canadians deserve better than broken promises and blank checks.
The honourable member for Winnipeg South.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to speak about the devastating wildfire crisis unfolding across Manitoba and Western Canada. Over 100 fires are burning, many of them out of control. Communities like Flin Flon, Lynn Lake, and Pimachikamak Cree Nation are under mandatory evacuation orders, displacing an estimated 17,000 Manitobans. The scale of these fires is immense, destroying homes and infrastructure, as well as disrupting every aspect of community life. Mr. Speaker, let us extend our deepest gratitude to the firefighters, emergency responders, and volunteers working tirelessly on the front lines to battle the flames that surround many of our northern communities. Their courage and commitment are nothing short of heroic. Finally, Mr. Speaker, let us also ensure that all orders of government are working together to provide seamless support for evacuees as they wait for a safe return home when the danger has passed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
They muted the mic. questions. Questions on Honorable Representative of the Conservative Party.
This Liberal government, last night a Conservative motion passed calling on the Prime Minister to table a budget this spring. The Liberals are asking Parliament to approve $500 billion in Liberal spending with no budget. Despite promising to spend less and cap government spending at 2%, they've increased it by 8%. Single moms, seniors, small business owners must budget before they spend. Parliament wants these Liberals to do the same. Will the minority Liberal government listen to the majority in this House and table a budget immediately?
Yeah, they voted on this yesterday. Hey, he's here!
Mr. Speaker,
Get your hand out of your
pocket. This week was a great week
pocket.
for the London Knights. It was a greater week for the country of Canada. Every First Minister in Canada, from Quebec, from the provinces, from the territories,
Bro,
Government of Canada agreed on a
pocket.
plan to build Canada strong, one Canadian economy out of 13. That's what the province country did.
The honourable member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Thanks for the update, but what about a budget? Canadians deserve real fiscal management, not excuses or fact-free talking points. And here's some of the facts. Liberal consultant spending is expected to rise 35% to $26 billion, breaking their promise to cut down on consultants. Fact. Wow. Liberals promised $20 billion in elbows up U.S. tariffs, but later dropped them with no regard to affected Canadian workers or fiscal impacts. Fact. The majority of this chamber voted last night for a spring budget. Fact. On what date would the Liberals face the facts and table a budget for their $500 billion in new spending?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the First Ministers agreed on a plan to build this great country. Stand up to Donald Trump. Fact. That's right.
Oh my goodness. Here we go with the freaking lag again. Not today, man.
The Government of Canada is imposing tariffs that cause maximum impact on the United States, minimum impact on Canada. Fact. On over $60 billion of U.S. exports to Canada. Fact. Raised over $1.7 billion already. Fact, fact, fact.
The honourable member.
That was pretty lame. Holy shit!
Dollars spent while Parliament was shut down by this government. A spending package of $500 billion with a record $26 billion for Liberal-friendly consultants like McKinsey and no oversight or scrutiny from Parliament. Well, this House has had enough. Last night, the House passed our Conservative motion calling on the Prime Minister to table a spring budget. Will the Prime Minister respect the will of Parliament and table a budget immediately so Canadians and this Parliament can have the transparency we deserve?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we take note of last night's motion. But what Canadians deserve, what Canadian provinces deserves, is a health care transfer, is a transfer for child care, is a transfer for dental care, is a transfer to support affordability. That's what's in the main estimates, and we expect the support of members opposite.
$26 billion on high-priced, Liberal-friendly consultants, an eye-watering $1,400 for every Canadian family. They'll present no budget, no departmental plans, and zero transparency. They won't even stand in this House and tell Canadians what the deficit will be this year. Will the Liberals come clean, table the spring budget as this House has demanded?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker,
what the heck is with the way he's answering questions?
I know the difference between main estimates and budget. Unlike the member opposite, I know how to grow. Unlike the member opposite, I know how to grow this economy.
Wow. Dude, there's something going on the freaking Poilievre website. I'm just going to switch over real quick here to a different stream. That's just so frustrating. Sorry, folks. I'm sorry. I'm on Starlink.
Unlike the member opposite, I know the difference between a main estimate and a budget. Here. And unlike the members opposite, we know how to grow this economy without spending money. And that's why we're proposing. A bill to build one Canadian economy out of 13. And all the provinces and Quebec agree.
The honourable member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, our motion calling on the government to table a budget this spring was passed yesterday. So the Liberals have to respect this Parliament and table a budget this spring. The Liberals want a blank check, and they want approval to spend over $1.5 billion without us knowing what the financial situation really is. During the election campaign, they promised to limit spending to 2%, but instead they're increasing it by 8%. This government has already shown that they deceived Canadians. Will the minority Liberals listen to the majority in Parliament and table a budget this spring? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the motion, we take due note of the motion, but we agreed with the Premier of Quebec that the best way to increase growth in Canada is to have one Canadian economy, not 13. The honourable member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister probably didn't understand my question. The motion calls on this Liberal government to table a budget this spring, and they've only got 18 days left to do that. A good, responsible manager uses a budget to determine what the spending capacity is. If our families, seniors, and SMEs acted like this government, they'd be bankrupt. The Liberals said they wanted to cut spending, but they're increasing consulting contracts to $26 billion. The Liberals must listen to Parliament. When will they present a budget to justify their $500 million in spending? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, there will be a budget that will increase support for seniors, for children, for childcare, for all of Canada. But for the time being, we will be boosting growth in this country with a bill to create a strong economy. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker,
look who showed up to work.
Yesterday, there was a bit of a love-in in Saskatoon. There are stages to a love-in, but at that love-in, there was an interesting project that would be for a pipeline to take oil not from Alberta to St. John, New Brunswick through Quebec, but rather to Hudson's Bay. So what does the Prime Minister think of that odd proposal? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There were a lot of projects that we discussed yesterday in Saskatoon. Yes, it was a big love-in because all the premiers want to work hard and to keep working hard for our country and for our economy. And those projects include major projects in Quebec in critical minerals and green energy. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. The last time there was such a big love-in was in Quebec, and a lot of people were taken by that. We remember that. I don't remember ever seeing Mr. Trudeau and Ms. Smith meeting in any kind of paradise, but is there any effort being made to find a market in Europe, or is there any effort being made to develop refineries to refine heavy crude in Western Canada? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we haven't decided yet what projects are in the national interest. We had a big conversation. Yes, it's true. Can I keep going? Mr. Speaker? But there has to be standards, environmental standards, and it has to have a big impact on the growth of our economy. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, that's not saying much, but there was one thing I saw. Will the Prime Minister officially commit to respect the Quebec Environmental Assessment Agency if Hudson's Bay is not an option? Will the Prime Minister commit to respect the decisions of the BAP? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I discussed this with the Quebec Premier and the other premiers. We discussed the possibility and, in fact, the need to have commitments and to have cooperation agreements when it comes to environmental standards. And we
then shattered that promise and jacked it up by 8%. What do Canadians get in return? Soaring debt, higher inflation, and zero economic leadership. Will the government stop the reckless spending, respect the will of this House, and table a budget?
There you go, man. Not that complicated.
A vote yesterday, but there's another vote coming in the coming days, Mr. Speaker. This is a vote where we'll see the true color of the Conservative, Mr. Speaker, because this is the motion in which we're cutting tax for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, give me a
Canadians
break.
live in this riding. They will be watching at home to see, will the Conservative be there to have the back of Canadians, Mr. Speaker? I can tell you, we'll be watching from this side. Canadian will be watching at home, and we all expect this House to say together, yes, we have the back in Canadian, and we'll give them a tax break.
Honourable Member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Last night, our Conservative motion passed demanding a budget from this Prime Minister this spring. After a decade of Liberal delay and decline in Northwest Territories, their economy is in trouble. Since 2015, mining, quarrying, oil and gas extraction down 16%, construction down 43%, the energy sector down 54%. Economist Graham Clinton writes, as the mines close over the next 3 to 8 years and nothing replaces them, we can expect a much smaller economy than we have today. The North won't afford any more of your empty promises, Prime Minister. What's your plan?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Speaker, on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we understand that Canada's strength when it comes to the economy of the future. Mr. Speaker, we're attracting talent. We have very large industry. This is a country that builds cars, that builds planes, that builds automobiles. Mr. Speaker, this is the country which has critical mineral. This is the country which has renewable energy and conventional energy. This is the only country of the G7 which has a free trade agreement with all the other G7 nations. Mr. Speaker, we have what the world needs, and we'll be there to build a superpower economically for this country and Canadians and for generations to come.
The Honourable Member for Kapuskasing, Timmins, Mushkegowuk.
Mr. Speaker, Parliament is demanding a budget from this Liberal government. For example, to cap spending at 2%, they increase it by 8%. Rather than cut spending on consultants, they increase it by 35%. To a record-smashing $26 billion. Wow. Last night, a Conservative motion was passed calling the Prime Minister to issue a budget this spring. The Liberals are asking Parliament to approve a $500 million in Liberal spending without no budget. Will the minority Liberal government listen to the majority Parliament and issue the budget immediately?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister said, we take note of the vote yesterday.
Yeah, folks, there's clearly something going on with my stream today. Carney's already left. I'm just going to end it. I'll be back tomorrow with the solid stream. Sorry, folks. Go watch it on CPAC.